What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. Give you a quick overview of some of the data points, latest and updates, and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO is up slightly, 0.11%, 428 the low, 457 the high. So a relatively volatile day and shows a lot of signs that it really does want to continue its nice push higher. Even right now, it seems to be building up some good momentum. You were seeing a lot of volume. So 60.8 million shares being traded, 45.3 is the average. That is rather abnormal today because a lot of other stocks, it's kind of quiet. So goes to show that big money is really still paying attention to NIO, and that's resemblant based on the dark pool. So a lot of big transactions as per usual over the last week have occurred here. So that goes to show that shorts are relatively active, but at the same time, hedge funds are getting in. So good to see that level of support. On a macro standpoint, there's a lot of uncertainty, so that's what's causing kind of the dip with NIO and just the broader market. So you have Trump kind of going after Europe, so that's somewhat still stuck in the air. And why that actually matters to NIO is technically Europe did state that they will be kind of renegotiating with China for the EV tariffs once the EU and the States come to some sort of deal. So that seems to be falling apart, so I don't think that there's going to be a China-EU negotiating tariff anytime soon. So something just to keep in mind. Aside from that though, you did have this. So just more warnings of overinvestment in EV and AI industries. And I think just at the end of the day, when it comes to China's EV sector, that is just cutthroat. We've seen many kind of price battles between BYD, NIO, and many others. So I think just this is more of a tentative warning for a lot of the smaller players, not necessarily NIO, even though NIO is kind of brought up in this article. So I feel like this is somewhat influencing and pushing it lower because of algos. But aside from that, there really isn't all that much. Shorts are currently increasing 3.24 million shares, 11.86% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 182.94 million shares. So today they are breaking their trend. They've been really returning a significant amount ever since it looks like July the 10th. So good to see shorts returning overall, and them increasing today I don't really think is all that worrying in my opinion. Aside from that though, looks like they are starting to kind of slowly and steadily increase throughout the day. But moral of the story is if they really wanted to double down, there's more than 10 million shares available. Cost to borrow average or through IBKR is 5.01, so it's kind of on the low end. So if shorts really wanted to double down and hit NIO, there's more than enough ammunition. So the fact that they aren't, in my opinion, is relatively good stuff. Aside from that, looking at the options, 4.37 million in calls, 1.35 in puts, 44% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. And most of that is actually occurring when it was at the intraday low. So I think that might be a little bit wrong or kind of skewed in my opinion. But aside from that, the bulls are still optimistic that it will continue its nice run to roughly around that $5 range. Bears are anticipating for it to kind of be stagnant, if not start to pull back to that $4 range going into next week. With today being Friday, just take note of this. This is all the open interest. So at the 450, you have 32,000. So best case scenario, NIO closes above that. For today, 22,000 at that 5. So I feel like that's already a write-off that's going to expire worthless most likely. Then you have 29,000 at that 4. So pretty good stuff. If NIO for whatever reason is able to close above 450, that should make for a very interesting kind of going into next week. So a little bit of a gamma squeeze, which is never really hurts anyone. Aside from shorts, I guess. But with it right now at 441, trading between this R3 and this R2. So 445 is going to be a key resistance level, and it kind of didn't really struggle. So I don't think it's that strong. If it is able to close above that, and even like I said, ideally above 450, then you should realistically see $5 going into the next couple weeks. So definitely a nice continued push higher. Aside from that, 419 is going to be that next strong support, and that wasn't even touched today whatsoever. On the actual chart, things are looking pretty good. So 439, which right now it's kind of flirting with a little bit, is that 200-day moving average. So NIO honestly has done very well. Very few times over the last 6 months it's actually successfully gone above both the 50 and 100-day moving averages without some sort of heavy resistance coming from shorts. So right now 439 is also going to be that key point, and that's kind of the only thing that's really holding it back. Stochastic RSI is very overbought, so means the first sign of weakness. You could see some consolidation, which obviously is happening even throughout the intraday today, but NIO is still getting a lot of capital getting in, which is always good, keeping stocks kind of afloat. So big money definitely sees more upside with NIO. And this is something that I have kind of vaguely mentioned on and off over the last month, is that institutions will be looking for value plays. And the fact that based on the volume today and just the price action, it goes to show that big money is paying attention to NIO. So that's kind of a good thing. But there hasn't been any new ratings over the last couple of days since I've brought that up. So last one did come out ultimately right over here once it pulls up. So 4 days ago, $5.90 Morgan Stanley, Tim, who has a 39% success rating. So I've already brought that up in a previous video. So most likely that's it for ratings. You should see some probably the next earnings, or I guess right before that will be their monthly numbers. But let me know your thoughts on NIO. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? Are you optimistic? Like, what's your kind of 2 cents on everything that's been happening? And do you agree that the EV market, I guess, in China is going to somewhat struggle? As that's why they're kind of warning about overinvestment, or like, what's your kind of thoughts on all that? But one final thing, pop over to my Discord if you're looking for a lot of good people talking about stocks, options, crypto, everything that you ever need. Plus it is free. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.